Welcome on back. It's Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. It's the #1 tennis betting podcast in the ATP Tour with myself, Nigel Seeley. And look who's joined me. He's back from his break, refreshed from the new year. Happy Christmas, Happy New Year. It's my old partner in crime, Sean Calvert. Good to see you, mate. Good to see you back.
Thank you very much. Good to be here. It feels like it's been a while, actually.
Well, it has been a while. I had to do it solo last week, 3 times. So that is hard. 25 minutes talking. It's the first sign of madness, talking to yourself. And, it was hard work, that was.
I thought it was doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. That's madness, isn't it?
And looking for hairs at the palm of your hand. I'm looking for them at the moment.
I never heard of that one.
I can't see any hairs on the head, let alone the palm of my hand. Don't know about that. But good to have you back, mate. You must feel, you've had a lovely Christmas with the family, New Year. You've had a bit of a holiday. You must be feeling full of the joys of spring and ready to go for 2024.
No. I'm feeling ready to go as far as the tennis is concerned. I've not had a great December, to be honest. I was just saying to you, I've had COVID. I still feel a bit rough, to be honest. It's one of them things that it sort of lingers. It's not quite gone yet. I mean, there was that. I mean, I could go into the full catalogue.
Yeah, go on.
Of disasters.
What's happened? What's been going on?
Obviously, I had COVID. My tooth. I had to pay £1,000 to get my tooth fixed. Then I've been into the dentist 3 times. 3 times in a week, and I've got to go back again next week to get it fixed. It's still not fixed. I got a speeding fine.
Oh, dear.
My car's been in the garage twice for breakdowns to get it fixed. That was another 1,200 quid.
Oh, no.
What else? Oh yeah, I ordered a white fridge. Yes, you see everything in this room is kind of white, right?
Oh yeah.
I ordered a little fridge to keep my drinks cool and that. Ordered a white fridge. Turned up black.
Oh dear.
That was yesterday. I've now got to package that back up on my own, send it to a DPD depot, and get that refunded.
Oh dear.
So
other than that, it's been great.
The holiday wasn't great either. If I'm being
where did you go?
Tenerife, but it was it's a bit of a gamble when you go to the Canaries because it's normally good weather, but it's not guaranteed. And we just got there at the back end. The storm had just passed through, and it was all cloudy, and it wasn't great.
What was the buses like? Good bus service?
I don't do buses in Tenerife.
Oh, okay, all right.
The island's too small. It's only like 20 odd miles across. You don't.
Has there been any positives?
It does have a good bus service, Tenerife, so I'm told, but I've not used it. Were there any positives? I'll get back to you on that.
Okay. Well, do you know what? I mean, it's quite
sorry to depress you.
Do you know what? Talking about car parking, talking about speeding fines. I got a speeding fine. I had to go on one of them speed awareness courses. You been on one of them?
I've done 2 of them. I'm not allowed anymore.
I got caught by a camera on the way home from a speed awareness course.
Did you?
Yeah, generally did. Yeah, I come out of one in Sutton in Surrey, and I went round a one-way system, and I wanted to get back for I think it was a football match starting. They go on for hours, didn't they? They're like 2.5 hours, and I got done by a camera. I think it was Champions League, and I wanted to get back for a Champions League match to start at 5:30, and I got done by a camera coming home from a speeding awareness course. Now, not something to be proud about.
Mine was coming home from the holiday that I just mentioned. I was doing 57 and a 50. Very naughty, obviously. So
I think about Christmas as well. We spend so much money. I actually worked it out yesterday or the day before. Everyone was moaning in the house, and I actually worked it out. I spent $5,000 on Christmas presents. $5,000, and I got back a deodorant,
pair of socks,
a scarf, a pair of really cheap slippers, like you get the really cheap ones that you just like big sort of
like a fiver,
not less than that, like Primani ones. I think I probably got about maybe $40 back in gifts, and I spent $5,000. So that, let's talk about the return.
I think you've probably overspent on your relatives and that. There, I think that's the problem.
I always do. I always get a bit crazy. I start buying Christmas presents in September. But anyway, that's me. Breaking news this morning, Rafa Nadal. We thought last week we were talking about this fantastic comeback. He's going to be playing the Australian Open. A lot of people on Twitter saying they took him. He got injured against Jordan Thompson in that semi-final, and he's pulled out the Australian Open this morning, which is really sad news, I suppose, and could be the end of Rafa, really. I can't see him coming back from this one. What do you think of that? What are your early thoughts of the news breaking this morning about Rafa Nadal?
Well, I watched a couple of his matches last week against Kubler and Jordan Thompson. To me, he didn't look like he was moving. I mean, Kubler was injured himself, actually, so he couldn't give his best, but Thompson could, and he wasn't moving properly in the dart. He was all right when the ball was in his strike zone, or slightly out of his strike zone, but any quick movement to I think it was to his left, but to either side, it wasn't the right movement. Whether that was because of the injury or whether he just is, he's going to be in 2 summers' time, he's going to be 40.
Mm.
So, I'm just not sure his body can cope with the demands of the game anymore. It looks that way anyway. It might just be a little niggle that he's got, but it's easy to see that this could be the end for Nadal. Certainly this season you would expect. It looks like it's going to be his last, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm not quite sure what happens with the bets with Bet Rivers. You'll have to get in contact with customer support if you've had a bet on that, because
I imagine it'll be refunded before the tournament started, but I'm not sure, to be honest.
I think they will do. I mean, you'd have to check the terms. I mean, we're recording this now, and the news is only broken about sort of an hour ago. So if you ever had a wager on Nadal, you have to check out with the support on the Bet Rivers website. Interesting week last week. There was 2 men's tournaments and in the women's tournament as well. We went through another tournament there.
Are we going to talk about what happened to you yesterday with you?
I'd rather not. I'd rather not.
Right, okay.
What? I went out with my son.
He beat you at betting, didn't he?
I say beat me. I wouldn't say beat me. I'd say I'd sort of give him a chance. I don't know. He keeps saying that he. To be fair, my son Harry's 18, and you can legally gamble in England at 18. In America, it's 21, and you can drink obviously here as well. So he's 18, and he's got his first betting account, and he has like $8 parlays and $6 parlays, and his success rate has been exceptional. Yesterday he was on
Chip
a cash
off the
out
old block, you might say.
Well, honestly, I think he's better than me. I think.
Why did you take him on then?
Well, he's too young. Give it 3 years, and I'm gone. Bet Rivers will have a new ceiling on their books. But I think he's very, very good. And he had a bet yesterday, and he had a cash out. He was trying to win £1,000, so about $1,100. He had a cash out, and he was $200. One team let him down. It was 1-1. Norwich let him down. But anyway, he's very bright, and he keeps telling me he knows more about football than me. So I decided to give him a challenge, and he absolutely schooled me. Schooled me. He gave 4-0 in.
Should we just let Lehecka and Harry do the show from now?
I think it's better. I think it's much better. I think they'll be much better on Instagram than me and you, Sean. I can assure you that. I think we get the younger vote. We get in the sort of the older. They'll get the female vote as well, which we. I
think Lehecka's a bit young yet, isn't he? Yeah, 9. Sorry.
I think they can continue. Definitely, I don't see any reason why. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that. I'd rather.
Okay, I'm sure you don't.
No, but I'm gonna. I'll beat him next week.
Let's move on then.
If we do a challenge next week and he wins, it will never see the light of day. Anyway, this week we have 2 tournaments. Before I said that, we had last week in the number 1 and the number 2 seed in both of the men's tournaments reached the final. The number 1 and number 2 seed in the women's big tournament as well. Rybakina and Sabalenka reached the final as well. Not a great week for underdog bettors, and obviously a lot of people might look at the start of the season and think, it's a good time we could get a shock, but it didn't seem to be that way last week. And historically, you need to come into tournaments at the start of the year really fast with a short turnaround before the Australian Open.
Yeah, it's lucky I didn't do the show last week actually, because I wouldn't have had either of those two. Dimitrov, he hadn't won a title for numerous years, wasn't it?
2017 was the last time he won.
Yeah, I mean, how can you back a guy at 6-1 that hasn't won a title in like 6 years, 7 years, whatever it is? That's not value, is it? If you want to cash a ticket at whatever price, then great. But not for me. Backing a guy at 6-1 hasn't won a title in many, many years. And Rublev as well. He what was he, about 3-1, 4-1? Yes, it doesn't.
I think he was actually short.
You're cashing tickets, but it's not my kind of betting. I'd rather have an each way that comes second at a decent price rather than backing those two. It's not usual. You don't normally get the top seeds winning in the first week, as I'll come on to in a minute when I talk about the trends.
Okay, so the trends to come. Let's start this week. We are in Adelaide. The first tournament we're talking about. It's an ATP Tour 250 event. I looked at the conditions as well. It's quite a fast court, but it's a pretty similar kind of like last year's trend as well. It's probably a sort of a medium to fast court, not in the top, not as fast as last week, I don't think. But you may have a little bit more than me. If you look at the previous winners, there's no real sort of identikit into the previous winners. Monfils won it in 2022, Kwon won it in 2023, Yannick Sinner in 2021, and Rublev in 2020. I think I've got the years mixed up there because there was a COVID year. But they're the last 4 winners.
They also played 2 tournaments. They played this tournament twice in 2 years. There was an Adelaide 1 and an Adelaide 2, and one year it was called Adelaide, but it was played in Melbourne, so it's a bit complicated, or vice versa. I can't remember which one it was now.
But what do you make of this tournament? What conditions are we at, and what the weather conditions? Sorry, what the court conditions firstly, and what are the weather conditions going to be like as well?
Yeah, it's pretty quick here actually. Green set hard court, which is the same one as the Australian Open. They use these AO balls, the Dunlop AO balls, which the players complained a lot about last year. They said they were pretty quick at the start, but then they kind of fluff up and get a bit slower. The average is 83% holds and 74.7% first serve points won. So that's, puts it in the top sort of 10 quickest of the year.
All right.
39% of the matches feature a tie break, which perhaps slightly less than you would think. Decent one for underdog winners, 36% on average of one here, which is 3% above average. And if we're looking at totals, the over 22.5 games has cashed 49% of the time in the last 5 editions. Now, the weather this week, it's supposed to start at 21 degrees and finish at 31 degrees. So quite a disparity. I think there's some storms in the area at the minute, and they're going to blow through, and then it's going to get progressively hotter until it gets up to sort of 31 at the end of the week. So it's warm, sunny, should be reasonably quick conditions. As I said, there's been quite a few big price winners and finalists of this tournament. You mentioned Kwon there. He was a lucky loser. We couldn't have him last year because he wasn't even in the draw. 33-1 he won it at. Korda, 33-1 as well. Kokinakis, 20-1. Rinky made the final at 40-1. Lloyd Harris made the final at 66-1 as well in the year that Rublev won it. So, yeah, quite quick conditions. Have been some big price winners, and yeah, it's normally a decent tournament, one that I look forward to because it's got good underdog winners as well.
And if you look at the draw, I mean, there isn't really much in it in quality of depth, I don't think. At the top part, the draw number 1 seed is Tommy Paul. He's scheduled to meet on the seedings. I don't think he's going to go to seedings, but Sebastian Bays will be his quarterfinal opponent who plays Jack Draper in round 1. I think expecting a big year.
He's just got in as a sorry, mate. Yeah, he's just got in when Nishioka withdrew. So he was in qualies, Draper, but he got taken out of the qualies because he was the next one in line.
Yeah, and you also have in that section as well, just above it, Kikmanovic and McDonald, you can't really see Sebastian Bays going through. Tommy Paul will play Bays on the draw, but we think that maybe someone else in that quarterfinal lineup. And Mazzetti will be looking to play Bublik. Echeverry will play Sebastian Korda, who's the number 3 seed, and Lehecka will play Jiri. So that's the projected quarterfinals. And the last day, if we look at the outright odds here, Sebastian Korda is 5-1 favourite. Now, I'm so glad. If you haven't followed this podcast last year, or if you're new to it, Sebastian Korda cost us more money than anybody else last year. It was a running joke towards the end of the year about Sebastian Korda. We thought he was going to win the tournament at the end and actually do it all for us. But and he was at his inconsistent best last week, bowing out in round 1. And he's the favourite. I just can't understand why he's the favourite. Anyway, Tommy Paul is 5-1 joint favourite. Nicholas Jarry is plus 650. Kikmanovic is 12. Lorenzo Massetti is 14. Matteo Arnaldi is 16-1. Lorenzo Sonego 16-1. Dan Evans at 18. And then we go into Rinky Hijikata at 20. Jiri Lehecka Kokonakis at 20. Jordan Thompson at 20. The man who beat Rafa Nadal last week. And 22-1 bar those. Head to the BetRivers website. You'll be able to see there. And they're offering each way odds are half the odds 1-2. So what that means is if you place 2 wagers, one of them to win the tournament, one of them to make the final, you will paid out at half the odds if your player makes the final and doesn't win. So, for example, if you bet Dan Evans at 18-1 and he made the final, you will get a guaranteed payout of 9-1 to make the final, and you'll have another part of your bet at 18-1. So it could have a bumper win, and BetRivers is one of the only sports books across America to offer each way betting. Sean, what do you like here? Give us your reasoning and your analysis of this draw in Adelaide. It's quite a tricky little draw, actually.
Yeah, I couldn't back any of the 4 seeds. I mean, they all look opposable to me. I mean, Tommy Paul's only won 1 tournament in his career, and this is his first match of the year. Massetti on a quick hard court, not really for me. Korda, he's won here before, but at a much bigger price. You'd want a big price about Korda. You wouldn't want 5-1 about Korda. He's not the most reliable, as you said last week. He lost straight sets to Yannick Hanfmann. He normally starts the season strongly, Korda, but he's so difficult to call now, isn't he? I certainly couldn't back him at that price. And Nicholas Jarry again on a quick hard court, not the great. He'll probably will get through a few rounds on his serve potentially, but he'll find it hard to win the tournament just on tie breaks. Difficult to fancy any of those 4 for me. So the top half of the draw, I think, is slightly more complicated, especially with Draper coming in there now. The bottom half is slightly clearer because there's only 1 qualifier to slot in. The other qualifiers are going in the top half of the draw. People like Rinky are in the qualies as well. So that he's a former finalist here. So that could kind of have a bearing. So the top half looks complicated. So I've taken 2 in the bottom half. I've taken Alexander Shevchenko. I took him at 28-1 earlier on today, and I got the same price about Kokinakis, 28-1 as well. Shevchenko, he's just been in. It looks to me like this price is too big. I expect him to be about 16s, 20, something like that. Very much on the upgrade. One to watch for me in 2024. I think I mentioned it last season as well. He's won 9 of his last 12 matches, Shevchenko. The only losses came to Holger Rune, Humbert, and Felix Auger-Aliassime, and that was in a final set tiebreak. He's already beaten Korda, who he would meet potentially in the quarterfinals here. He's beaten Korda on hard before. He beat him at Washington, D.C. last summer. Very much a player that's improving at the minute. He shouldn't really fear anybody in this draw for me, Shevchenko. So I think 28-1 is anything above 20-1 is a decent price each way for me on Shevchenko. Should be beating Etcheverry really on current form and on all the hard court stats. And Kokinakis is kind of an obvious bet, really. He's playing, this is his hometown tournament. He was really disappointing last week in Brisbane, where he went down pretty tamely to Hijikata in the first round. I expected better from him then. I can't imagine he's going to put a tame one in here. It's his home tournament. It's his hometown. He's won it before. These are his conditions. I've said many times he plays much, much better. His stats are much better in Australia than anywhere else. He doesn't like the travel. He doesn't like the tour grind. He likes playing at home. Should be beating Lajovic in the first round. And then after that, Lehecka or Popyrin, Jiri as the seed. I'm not seeing this as a daunting draw for him. So those are my two here in Adelaide.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Shevchenko last week. I thought he didn't take his chances against Holger Rune. He sort of blew it in the final set, but he had chances in set one. He played really well.
He's improving very, very quick. The only slight worry about him is fitness. He maybe needs to improve his stamina a little bit, but at this price, I'm happy to have a go.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think 28-1 is a monster price when you consider that the 5-1 favourite in the tournament is Sebastian Korda, a man who has beaten. He does try to place a tricky opening match against Etcheverry, but he's still a -165 favourite to win that match with Bet Rivers. And talking of matches, let's move across to 3 matches that you have highlighted for us. The first match we're going to talk about is Rinky Hijikata up against Dan Evans. These two have never met before. And surprisingly here, Rinky Hijikata is an overwhelming favourite when you consider his world ranking. Dan Evans is much the higher ranked opponent here. Dan Evans is making his year debut here. He's -105, which Rinky Hijikata is -120. The totals are 22.5 with under -108, over -118, I think it's 118, yes. And if you want to look at the game spread, it's a 1.5 game spread, which is -134. Dan Evans +105. Hijikata Smith. Dan Evans receiving the start, sorry, -134. Hijikata giving up the start is +105. But really, you want to play on the money line rather than the handicap when they're so closely matched. Now, this match starts tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, and Bet Rivers do have about 30 different markets available on the match. And remember, if you do place a bet on this match or any match on the ATP Tour or the WTA Tour, you can live stream the match from the comfort of your own home. Dan Evans, Mr. Inconsistent for me, but I am surprised that he isn't the favourite here when you consider the calibre of the two players and the fact that he's almost 30 odd places now above him in the world rankings. That does seem a little bit of a surprise to me.
Yeah, I've taken Evans here as underdog. Slight chance because it's his first match of the season, but statistically, I know Hijikata's been playing all right recently, but I'm not sure he definitely doesn't warrant this price based on stats. Outdoor hard, last 12 months at main level, service points won, return points won totals. Bearing in mind, Evans didn't have a particularly great year last year. He popped up in, was it Washington, D.C.?
Won it, yeah.
Won it. Other than that, he didn't really do anything. He had a poor season with injuries and loss of form. So it wasn't a great season for him, but still well ahead on the stats. Hijikata's only got a total of 97, Evans 101. If you also take into account the service hold and break totals, Hijikata 96, Evans again 101. So a fair advantage for Dan Evans. The other thing here is that Evans does tend to play well in Australia. He's won titles here. He's played well in the ATP Cup here before as well. So he likes the conditions. He's at his best on a sort of quickish hard court, as he showed in Washington, D.C. He's pretty quick there as well. Happy to take this price. I mean, Hijikata might win this match, but not backing him at that price it's a dreadful price. Yeah. So as ever, the value is there. It's not always there, but for me, there's value on Dan Evans here. Taking a chance on him. I know he's been training in Marbella. He was training in Marbella a couple of weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, actually. So he's recovered, obviously, from that injury that he had at the end of last season. He was practicing on the clay. Now he's obviously been practicing on the hard courts as well. So I'm assuming he's going to be fit to go. So happy to take it.
And that is our first official pick of 2024. I don't know if it's something we should be looking back. We're putting our first pick and our official pick on Dan Evans. I mean, I understand the argument completely. I think he is the wrong price here. I think he should be the marginal favourite. I'm surprised he's the underdog, but he's probably the least person I want to trust for my first official pick of 2024. But
I could have had Public or someone like that.
Yeah. But the price is wrong, and we do think he's value, and I expect that market to move pretty considerably. So we didn't keep any record of the bets last week because it was unfair without Sean. I just give some advice and leans, but this is our first official pick. And very quickly, like buses, Sean knows all about buses. Official pick will be following up very quickly, and it's in Matteo Arnaldi against Marton Fucsovics. These are another two players I've never played before, and again, it's quite a close one to call. Arnaldi is the favourite here at -129. Fucsovics is +104. The total is 22.5 over and under. Under is -104, over is -124. And if you do like the handicap or the spread, it's -1.5 for Arnaldi, -103. Fucsovics is -124. But as I say, there's 30 different markets available for you to have a look at on the BetRivers website and play a wager of your choice. Arnaldi, I think he's going to be a very talented player, the young Italian. He's 22 years of age, but his best form comes on the clay, doesn't it, here? And Fucsovics is a bit of an old, wily fox, isn't he? Been around many years now. He's almost 10 years older than his opponent here, the Hungarian. How do you see this one going?
Well, these two played last week in Brisbane in
Did they?
Yeah, they met last week.
I haven't got that on my head record. Didn't know that.
Okay,
Listen, it's my mistake. I've gone wrong. They met twice before. My mistake. They played in a challenger, which I think you probably didn't have the challenger. Fucsovics won the challenger.
I did. It's in Canberra, wasn't it, or somewhere?
It was in Canberra in 2023, which Fucsovics won. And they played last week, as Sean just said there. My mistake. I don't know why I missed that out. And Aldi won in a very close match in 2 tiebreaks. Very close. Sorry, Sean. I apologise for that.
No, that's all right. He was unlucky, Fucsovics, last week. Pure and simple. He was unfortunate. It was a rain-affected match in Brisbane. There was a lot of storms and stuff there, very humid at times last week in Brisbane. So he led by a set, Fucsovics. He had 2 break points to serve the match out for a 2-love straight sets victory. You know, if he'd have taken one of them break points, it'd have been serving for the match. Didn't take the break points, and as so often happens, if you don't take those big chances, he got broken in the very next game. Ended up losing it, having had a match point in a final set tiebreak. Kind of a very Fucsovics-y kind of loss that. He does this quite often, which is why I'm always a bit reticent to back him, because when he's playing well, he looks, $1 million, but mentally not quite there. Kind of a typical loss for him that he's suffered those sort of defeats many, many occasions. But he was some way ahead in terms of the service points won and return points won totals. He lost the match, but he was 105 to 95 ahead in terms of those stats. So you could certainly chalk that down as an extremely unfortunate loss for Fucsovics. It's just a lean this one, because he scares me, Fucsovics. He makes me nervous, which I don't like to be when I'm betting and stuff. I don't like to be hiding behind the sofa watching it. But if you are going on the money line here, there's definitely a reasonably strong case to be made for Fucsovics as the underdog.
So just reminding me there, hiding behind the sofa. I'll tell you a very, very funny story very quickly. I don't know if I don't know what the equivalent of this would be to the American audience, but if you're English or British or Irish, you'll know what this was. We used to have teletext, didn't we? Do you remember teletext? Like
going back about 40.
Yeah. Well, teletext. So basically, it was on your television screen. You used to press the button, put the scores in, to give you all the information on your TV screen.
It's like a pre-internet, wasn't it?
Yeah, it must have had teletext in America. I'm sure it was, but they may have an equivalent. But a friend of mine had a very, very big treble parlay on the tennis, and he had it with a snooker player, 2 tennis players and a snooker player, and he had it for like big money, about $500 and in the teletext used to update every 5 seconds, like every 2 minutes. So it'd go 1-0, then it would go sometimes jump and go sort of half hour later 2-1, and then it would jump again and go 3-2. It never updated like point per point we have now. And it was the first to 5, and it was 4-4. And this guy
in the snooker match,
it's the first to 5, and this guy, and it was his whole parlay was on this match, and he was hiding behind the sofa, and he'd cut out newspaper all over the television. And he had the 2 holes where it said 4-4, and he just wanted to see which the right side was his man, the left side, and he was just hiding behind the sofa, waiting for the right side to say 5, just sitting like this.
Oh yeah.
And his wife walked in after dropping after picking the kids up from school, with like 3 sets of parents, 3 mothers, and all these kids coming. And they just said, "Oh, don't worry about him. He's just this is what he does most days." And he was hiding behind the sofa, like all the kids are running in and all the parents running in, and waiting for the score. It didn't win. He lost, and I don't know what happened to the television and the paper, but it just
Out the window, I should think.
Just imagine a man hiding behind the sofa with newspaper all over the television for a parlay, and a house full of children and mothers coming in. Anyway, I digress.
That's how I feel about Marton Fucsovics matches generally.
You don't want Lagan and his friends from school to come home and see you hiding behind there.
It's quite a length he's gone to there, isn't it? Cutting out the holes in the exact right.
Oh yeah. You do crazy things when you want to win. You change.
I don't think I've ever done anything like that.
I've done some really crazy things. I used to do certain things with, like, walk the dog at a certain time, and then I would get up and make a cup of tea, wouldn't watch it, come back, put it on mute. I mean, just crazy. I can't think of have you done any crazy betting things to try to get your bet home? When you go into the betting shop and you see the guy riding horse, I think that's the one. Come on,
my mate used to do that. My mate used to do that. He didn't used to have the whip, but he used to sort of rock from side to side when he could tell when his horse was getting closer because he'd rock faster. Yeah. And so you do see things like that, but it's not something that I generally do.
But if you've done any strange superstitions when you're betting, let us know, because you can give us any questions as well you want on it to share them with us. Finally, we move on to Lehecka against Popyrin. I mean, this is you've picked 3 real close matches. Lehecka -112, Popyrin -112. You can't even get closer than that. The total is 23.5, and obviously there is no game spread because it's a pick and match on the money line. Popyrin last week, I watched his match against Safin. Did you watch that match? It was a crazy match.
No, I didn't.
It was Popyrin should have won. There were so many matches last week where players had set points, and Popyrin had set points against Safin, never took them. So many matches last week. I think Cilic had 8 set points.
He had 9 match points. Cilic.
Yeah, there was crazy
9 match points. I've never had a loser with 9 match points. I've had 5, 6. Never had 9.
Yeah, it was a crazy week for match points conversions. So Popyrin here should have beaten Safin. Safin obviously went deep in the tournament. It was an epic game. And then Lehecka, who isn't playing that well, but he did take a set of Novak Djokovic, but Novak Djokovic was injured, an injury time out in that match. So this is a pick and match. Usually it's very hard the bookies make them pick them because they're very, very hard to have an opinion on. But you have an opinion on this match.
I do, not on the money line in particular. 2 players here that are very strong on serve, not particularly great on return in quick conditions. It suggests tie breaks to me. If we look at Popyrin's stats, he's very much a serve dominated player. He's only broken serve 12.5% of the time on outdoor hard at main level in the last 12 months, winning just 32.7% of return points, but holding like 86, 87% of the time. So these are the kind of players I like these profiles. It tends to suggest tie breaks. 12 of his last 21 sets, that's 57%, have gone to either 12 or 13 games, Popyrin. Lehecka, little bit better on return, not a great deal, breaks 16% of the time and wins 34% of return points won. So slightly better return game, not massively, a little bit better, still strong serve. 2 guys in these conditions, if they serve well, they should be rattling through their service games. It should be close. These guys should both be highly motivated. Lehecka, as many people will remember, made the quarterfinals of the Australian Open last year. He's going to need to back up those points sometime soon because he's lost. I think he's lost 8 of his last 9 matches. Lehecka, not playing well at all. Needs a boost, otherwise his ranking is definitely going to drop. And Popyrin, obviously playing at home in Australia, played well this part of the year. Last year, obviously won a title last year on the clay. He's a player that is improving. So it should be a close match. So I was quite surprised to see Bet Rivers offering plus money on a tiebreak here, plus 120.
That's actually moved now. It's actually gone down to plus 102. It's still plus money, but that's still value when you consider the games of 23.5. I always think when you hit that 23.5 game line, the tiebreak should be minus money. That's my sort of strategy that I look. But
I thought it'd be about 1 point, maybe 1.85, 1.9, something like that. But I took the plus 120, and it's still, if you can get on plus money, then do it, would be my advice.
Yeah, plus 102. I think that's something to look for. If you see matches pitched at 23.5 and you can get a tiebreak over half in the match at plus money, I think that's definitely a strategy you want to use, and there's definitely in quick conditions here. So there you have it. There's 2 official picks from Sean. A tiebreak in Lehecka and Popyrin at plus 102 now. It was plus 120, but unfortunately it's now plus 102. We've gone for Dan Evans to win his match against Hijikata -105, and a small lean for Fucsovics on the money line at +104. So 2 official plays through for start 2024. We have another tournament. It's another 250 event, and this time it's in Auckland. It's the ASB Classic. Previous winners, there's not really many illustrious names on here. So, last year it was won by Richard Gasquet, rolled back the clock and won this one.
Well, it was a choke, wasn't it, from Cam Norrie? It was a flat-out choke that allowed Gasquet to win that.
He blew a gasket, didn't he? Umber was 2022. Sandgren won it in 2019. Batista Agut in 2018. What do we got to look out for here? What are the conditions? What's the weather forecast? Probably glorious sunshine in Auckland. You ever been to Auckland? Everyone has told me to go.
I have.
Is it? Oh, yeah. Is it supposed to be a very, very beautiful place? Is it?
I like New Zealand.
Oh.
I do like New Zealand. I didn't spend that long in Auckland. It was a kind of a starting point for like a tour of the 2 islands. So I only spent a couple of days there, but yeah, I like it. It's not too hot. It's like Australia can sometimes be a bit oppressive, can't it? It was 40 when I was there in Melbourne, so that's too hot. It's a very beautiful place, New Zealand. If you obviously it's a very, very long way away, but if you get a chance to go, I would certainly say go. Yeah.
Sean, I'll tell you one thing. If I'm doing 24 hours, I can't go economy class, and I couldn't go first class. It would cost me a fortune.
Just suck it up and go in economy.
You'd have to put me like BA Baracus. You'd have to put an injection in me.
Just take some Valium or something, and just you'll be fine. It's worth it. It's nice. New Zealand. It's probably once in a
Las Vegas is my max. Another 10 hours on that. I don't know what I'll do.
Okay, well, I have been there before. It can be windy in Auckland. That's the only thing. I haven't looked at the weather forecast. It doesn't look like it's going to be that windy this week, but it can get quite gusty there. It's called the City of Sails for a reason. It does get pretty windy. So it's played on the same green set surface as the Australian Open, just to kind of make all the lead-up tournaments the same. Kind of a medium-pace surface. I would suggest not quite as quick as Adelaide. Averages around 82% holds, 73.4% first serve points won. So decent pace, but not lights out quick. A lot of the matches last year, you probably remember, were played indoors because it hammered it down for most of the week. And we tried to tailor our bets, didn't we, to the indoor matches, and we were guessing which ones were going to be played in indoor and outdoor. But this week it looks fine, around 25°C temperatures all week. Actually averages more tie-break matches than Adelaide, 44% tie-break matches, and a decent amount of dog winners, very decent amount of underdog winners, 38%, which is slightly more than Adelaide and well above the average. More over games have cashed here as well. Over 22.5 games has cashed 53% of the time in the last 5 editions in Auckland. As far as the trends are concerned, as you suggested, there was quite a few big price winners and finalists. Gasquet last year, but that was a fluke. Let's be honest. Norrie just threw it away and then started crying. I think, if I remember rightly, he's choked the final a couple of times here, Norrie. So that's something to bear in mind. He does get extremely nervous because he is basically a Kiwi, isn't he? He calls Auckland home. It's his home tournament, although he plays for Britain. So yeah, watch out for Norrie if you're on him. Gasquet 18-1, Humbert 28-1, Sandgren, as you mentioned, was 100-1 winner here in 2019. I remember that very well because I was on Cam Norrie at 28-1 each way, and Norrie was the favourite going into that final, and he lost. I think it was in straight sets. So no number 1 seed has made the final here in Auckland since David Ferrer won it in consecutive years from 2011 to 2013. So 10 years, 11 years maybe, without a number 1 seed making the final here.
So can the number 1 seed make it the final here, or actually going to win it? And he's the tournament favourite, the number 1 seed here. We have Ben Shelton. Well, he's second favourite actually, behind Felix Auger-Aliassime. But he's number 1 seed, Ben Shelton. And in his section of the draw, he's going to play in the quarterfinals, probably Ofner or Shapovalov. We're going to come on to that match in a second. Then we get Serendulu, the number 3 seed. He's playing that section that is very weak there. He looks scheduled to play Max Purcell in the quarterfinals. He's the number 8 seed, so it shows you how weak that is. Artur Fields is up against Auger-Aliassime in a much tougher 3rd section. And in 4th section, Christopher Eubanks obviously burst onto the scene at Wimbledon, had a great end of year. He's scheduled to play Cam Norrie. So looking for the value, I think that top quarter looks quite tough. I think the bottom quarter looks tough. The value certainly in section 2, very, very weak in there. Where do you see some potential in the outright market? Let's give you some odds before we get there. Felix Auger-Aliassime, as I said, is the favourite at $5. Ben Shelton is plus 550. Cam Norrie, the number 2 seed, is 650. Artur Fields 7. Gael Monfils 8. Roberto Bautista Agut 11, Botic van der Sandschip at 14, Francisco Cerundolo 14, Christopher Eubanks 20, Denis Shapovalov on his comeback is 20, Marazan 20, Ofner, who was in great form last week, is also 20-1, and it's 22-1 bar those players. Where is the value, Sean?
I think you're right. I think the value, if you can find any, is perhaps in the second quarter. But
yeah, nothing.
Who are you going to take? I mean, Cerundolo doesn't really feel like a sort of tournament that he would be likely to win. I can't imagine. What price is Cerundolo? I can't imagine he's a particularly big price.
Cerundolo is 14-1. Oh, that Vukic at a big price. I mean, it was quick.
Vukic, he was in shocking form last week. I think he only won 53%. Considering he's a big server, I think he won 53% of his first serve points last week, Vukic.
Right.
And he's an underdog against Taro Daniel, who himself is not someone you can imagine winning this tournament. Bonzi does have the ability to win, but is he fit? He hasn't seemed fit since that wrist problem he had almost a year ago. You wouldn't be 100% sure that he's going to beat Muller in the first round. So I was kind of half toying with Purcell at 33-1, but just not. I don't think he's quite got the quality to win. He might go pretty close. I think perhaps he's the best of the underdogs, but I've actually gone a different way. I've got a theory about this. I've taken my old friend Gael Monfils at 9-1.
He's older than you.
Win this tournament. We're roughly the same age. I think he's maybe a couple of months younger. I've got a theory here. He's been in Auckland for a long time. He went weeks ago because Svitolina, obviously his wife, was playing the WTA tournament there last week. I think she lost in the final, didn't she?
Yeah.
Svitolina.
She took a set of Corey Goff and lost in 3 sets.
So they've been there for a long time. So he should be very much attuned to the conditions here. He should be the best prepared out of any of these players. Should Gael Monfils. And his recent form is very, very, very good. He's won 12 of his last 17 matches. And if you look at the 5 defeats, they came against Djokovic, Sinner, Rublev. And in the last 2 weeks of the season when he was exhausted, he lost to TFO and Cerundolo after he'd won Stockholm. So he was a bit tired then. But he's won all the other matches. He's not always, but he's often started years very, very fast. He's won tournaments and made finals numerous times in January and February. It tends to go well when he's keen and he's had a bit of a rest and he's fresh and he's fit. So I'm not convinced about Ben Shelton, to be honest with you. Is he going to back up last season? Maybe, maybe not. How many times have we seen it coming into the season? The players just don't carry on with their form that they had at the previous year. And his first match will probably be against Gael Monfils. That's a tough ask. So taking a chance on my old buddy Lamont here at 9-1.
He's now currently 8-1 with Bet Rivers, but that's still value. He does have a tough opener. Goes against Marazan. I suppose not his surface, and you would expect him to cut through there. It's quite a difficult
match. He should beat him, yeah.
And the other thing I thought you might say, because we've spoken about Monfils before, he's an entertainer. He loves the big matches. He loves going head to head with Ben Shelton. He'll love that. It'll be a great matchup for him. Shelton won't enjoy that. So I can see your reasoning, your arguments, and Gael Monfils, but he does have a difficult route through to the final. But if he gets through that number one in that top quarter, then
you beat Shelton.
You'll beat anybody in
isn't it?
In that quarter too. So, and then that's the only pick there. Nothing else you like. Just we're going to go all in on Monfils.
The only other slight lean would be Purcell, but I'm not. Having said that, I'm not going to back him. I'm sure he'll probably win, but he's the only other one that I really sort of considered and thought about for a while.
You've definitely got to be playing in that top half, I think, rather than that bottom half because of how weak that second.
I think this is tough, this bottom half. If we just quickly go through it, Cam Norrie, as I said, you can't trust him here because he's choked it so many times. Felix isn't fit; he hasn't played. I think he had a knee injury, didn't he? Was supposed to play in. Was he supposed to play in the cup last week? Didn't play.
Tournament favourite though, Sean.
Not for me, Felix. After everything he did last year, his best stuff tends to come on indoor hard. I can't imagine a windy place like Auckland is going to be somewhere where he will particularly prosper. I think it's a terrible price on Felix. Feast is the obvious one, but too short for me, really. I mean, he's got Gasquet first up. He should win that, but Gasquet's defending champion. Eubanks isn't fit. I'm not entirely sure that he's going to play that match. He pulled out last week, didn't he? I think he was supposed to play last week in Brisbane. Didn't play. Van der Zandschulp, you just can't trust him, can you? He's another one. Even if he does get to the final, you wouldn't trust him to actually win it, given what he's done in finals before. So it's a tough one. So I've taken Monfils. I think the bottom half is very, very difficult.
Yep. So Monfils is our bet 8-1 currently at Bet Rivers. Head across to the Bet Rivers website. 2 matches we're going to discuss in Auckland. The first match is Denis Shapovalov making his anticipated comeback. Hasn't played on the tour since Wimbledon. And he's up against Sebastian Ofner. It's a tough opener for the Canadian. Plus 130 for Denis Shapovalov. Minus 160 for Ofner, who was really impressive last week. Served some great stuff. I think he reached the quarterfinals. He had some big wins. He beat Struff. He beat Batista Agut. Semi-finals, actually, got beat by Ruusuvuori in the semi-finals. And he beat Mackenzie McDonald. And he absolutely blitzed Mackenzie McDonald. Player that's probably a little bit more comfortable on the clay and could have a breakthrough year this year at Ofner, I think, if he continues that kind of form and gets it together here. He plays Shapovalov, as I said, to give you the time of that match. The time of that match is tomorrow at 6 p.m. The total is 22.5. The handicap or spread, 1.5. Ofner giving up 1.5, minus 129. Shapovalov plus 102. I don't know what you've bet you're liking on this one, Sean, but are we heading towards the tie breaks again here?
That's my lean, yeah.
Yeah.
You've preempted me a bit there. I mean, if this match was played a year ago, what price would Shapovalov have been? About 1 to 3 or something?
Yeah, minus $3, yeah.
It would have certainly been a pretty big favourite. Now he's ranked 109 in the world, Shapovalov, because he said he's not played since Wimbledon, so he's lost a load of ranking points. Knee injury has been the problem for him, and his former coach, Matteo, usually he stuck the knife in as well a few days ago. I don't know whether you saw that, but he said that Shapovalov was not committed enough to be a top player, basically. He said he doesn't do the right things off the court. I'm not sure what he was alluding to there, but he's basically saying that he's not totally committed to being the best that he can be. Shapo didn't like it. He fired back with a riposte of his own. But he was really keen to play here in Auckland, Shapovalov. He entered the qualies when his ranking wasn't quite high enough to get in. He got a little bit lucky with some withdrawals and all the rest of it and managed to get a wild card because of it. So he's in the main draw now. He would have had to go through qualies ordinarily. What is he, about 2.25 here, Shapovalov?
Plus 130. Yeah, plus 230 in decimal.
2.3 plus 130, yeah. Yeah, it's tempting, isn't it? It really is tempting on his best form. And that could arrive at any time with Shapovalov. That would be a great price. But as you said, Ofner played really, really well last week. And he's the favourite on form. But he plays a lot of tie breaks, Ofner. I thought the price of over 10.5 games at 2 to 1 with Bet Rivers was pretty tempting, over 10.5 in set 1. You feel like if Shapo serves his best, which we're never sure that whether he will or not because of that service action there is, he might have. He's had a long time to improve it and to iron it out in the time that he's been off. So it's a gamble, but I feel like the odds are pretty decent. So my lean here would be set 1 overs. I feel like it'll take Ofner a while to break that serve.
Yep, Ofner, and we know Shapovalov comes out fast. He comes out very fast in his matches.
Does.
The final match we're going to talk about on this episode is Altmaier against Marcus Giron. Marcus Giron is minus $2. Altmaier is plus 160. That match is today, 6 p.m. Eastern time. So whatever Sean recommends here, you've only got a few hours to get on that bet or head to the Bet Rivers website. 28 different markets available. Remember, if you do bet on the match, you can live stream it. And all these matches we're talking about, you can live stream. Total 22.5. The spread is 2.5. Marcus Giron minus 2.5, minus 124. Altmaier minus 104. Receiving 2.5. Never met before. What do you think of this one?
If Giron's fit and firing and fresh and ready, he should win it reasonably comfortably. He should play with too much pace for Altmaier on a hard court. Altmaier prefers a sort of slow, quite high bouncing clay court. His hard court record, it speaks for itself, really. If we look at his last 12 months, Altmaier on outdoor hard at main level, he's 2 wins and 9 losses, and his service points won and return points won total is just 94. Giron, by way of comparison, 12 wins, 13 losses last year, and his total is 100, so fully 6 points better. Giron made the quarterfinals here last year, lost in a final set to Cam Norrie. You feel like if Giron plays reasonably near his best, he should win this pretty comfortably. So my lean here would be Giron minus 2.5 games. It was around about minus 123 with Bet Rivers when I looked earlier.
Giron minus 2.5 games is currently minus 124, and that match starts at 6 p.m. this evening. So there we have it. That is the first episode of myself and Sean. The build up to the Australian Open starts next week. We'll be back with all loads of content on this tournament on Tuesday and Wednesday, and we're back with reaction and prices on the draw and odds and looking at head to the Australian Open. And then we've got a busy couple of weeks with the action in Melbourne. Sean, just give us a little recap of your official picks and your leans here this week in the two tournaments.
Okay, so the official pick in Adelaide, the outrights as well. The outrights were Shevchenko and Kokkinakis, both around the 28-1 mark. Those two each way. Dan Evans to beat Hijikata should be around about even money. And the over half a tiebreak, a shade of plus money in Lehecka against Popyrin. That is a plus, I say slight plus money, plus 102 chance of Bet Rivers at the moment.
So there you have it.
Oh, sorry, in Adelaide. It's Auckland.
That was, yeah, if you could do Auckland as well, yeah.
Yeah, just quickly, that's just Gael Monfils on the outright. Around about 8-1 to win that.
And there, yeah, that's
win only, by the way, not each way.
And we got a lean for Ofner over 10.5 against Shapovalov and Marcus Giron minus 2.5 in his match against Altmaier. Remember, that match is today. Remember, you can follow us on all our socials on Twitter and Instagram at Because We Win. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. I know you've got a lot of subscribers there, and download the podcast on your preferred podcast provider. The YouTube channel is Betting Weekly Studios. Please download the podcast. I can't keep saying you so much. And please subscribe to the channel and give us some comments. We want to hear from you. We want to have some comments. We want to have a really sort of interaction this year on the show. We want your comments. We want to get the ratings up. We want to also get the subscribers up. We did really well last year. We want to do even better this year. So in 2024, please get involved. Any questions you have for myself or Sean, you're more than happy to send them across. And any weird things you do when you're wagering, any kind of strange, quirky things. Do you hide behind the sofa? Do you turn the TV off? Do you walk the dog at certain times? Do you pace the front room? What do you do when you're watching these tennis matches? Do you serve the serve? Do you move to avoid the serve? What do you do? Let us know. Sean, thank you very much. Enjoy your day. Hopefully your January gets a lot better than your December. Hopefully you recover from your cold in time. Myself and Sean will be back on Tuesday looking at these matches again. And tomorrow I'll be joined by Rory Giovanni, who's just nailed the winner on week number 1 last week with Corey Goff over in New Zealand. And Rory will be trying to come back here and continue his success from last week. Take care, everyone. Have a good week. Good luck with your wages. And we'll speak to you all very soon.